play the New Orleans Saints, Billy, to finish out the month of December. An opportunity to sweep the Saints, an opportunity to literally win and get in to the playoffs, Billy. How are you feeling about this upcoming matchup?
I gotta say, it's a foreign feeling to me, but I'm feeling fantastic about it. The
Okay.
Bucs competed against the Saints since Todd Bowles took over as head coach. Swept them last year, got them earlier this season in the dome. Now you got them at home, and this is what football is supposed to be, right? Late in the season, you get an opportunity to take on your greatest rival, right? The division foe that has been the most difficult for you to get by, biggest thorn in your side. You got a chance to take them on at home for a chance to get the division, go to the playoffs, secure a home playoff game. That's what it's supposed to be about. And for the first time in a long time, going into a New Orleans Saints game, I'm pretty optimistic. I feel pretty good. How about you?
I will say I do feel positive, especially that with the past month. I feel like the Packers are a team that possibly would have posed a tougher matchup, and same with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And not to discredit the Saints, because there is still part of me, and I wonder your thoughts and opinions of this, that still has that like stigma in my head, right? Of like, this could all go so wrong so quickly, right? And I hate feeling that way. I don't want to feel that way. But I was so conditioned, not even last year, but the in the this opening stages of 2020 and 2021, where it just, oh boy, it did not go well, right? Did not go well. Now, we've seen a lot of evidence to suggest that that's not necessarily the case anymore, to where whenever the Bucs play the Saints, they just entirely collapse as a football organization. Again, they swept them last year. They won pretty darn decisively earlier in the year. But there is still some part of me, Billy, and I want your thoughts and opinions on that, that just sits there and goes, yeah, but it's the Saints. And the Saints are just such a tough team for this Bucs team to face in the past, that
I
it does get me a little concerned.
I totally respect it, and I get completely where you're coming from with the stigma. Perfect word for it. I get why you feel that way. I'm not letting that wash over me. I feel for the first time, that's what I'm saying, for the first time, because you talked about the early stages of 2020 and 2021, right? We can take it back further than that. I mean, the Jameis Winston era, every time Jameis Winston and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers played the New Orleans Saints, it was a debacle. It was horrendous. So it's a long-standing stigma, to steal your word. I just don't feel it. I feel really confident. It's the first time in a long time where I feel like the Buccaneers should be the favorites and like they're going to come through. The Buccaneers this year, to their credit, they have had their backs to the wall in a couple different moments, and they've put their best foot forward in those situations. And this is that situation. You know what's at stake if you win versus if you lose. So you need to be at your best, and I would expect the Bucs are fairly healthy. The Saints are not as healthy. I would expect the Buccaneers to be able to put their best foot forward. I'm not that impressed. Part of it is I'm not that impressed with what I've seen from the Saints this year. I think that they have been very meh for most of the season. And the Buccaneers are hot at the right time. They were meh a long time ago. Now they are guns blazing. I don't feel that stigma. I felt that the first time we played the Saints earlier this season. I was like, well, I don't know. But after that game and then seeing what we've seen, like you said, since December, yeah, I feel good. I really do. It's not like forced optimism. It's just a comfort level that I think the Buccaneers are going to show up and show up big.
Yeah, I want to bounce off of something you just said, where it's like backs against the wall, right?
Yeah.
And Billy, you could argue that they've had their backs against the wall since the start of December, when they were 4-7, right?
Right.
That
Exactly.
that was, it's time to go type of moment, where it's now or never, and they won four straight. But the job, and I said this in the Bleacher Report stream I did earlier this week, the job's not done, right? Job's not done. I really hope, and I'm saying this not because I think it's going to happen, but I say this because I really don't want it to happen, is I really hope that the team doesn't have the mindset of, oh, we only got to, like, we can cruise through these next two games, right?
Wow.
They're 8-7. They've won four straight. I hope they don't rest on their laurels here. I hope they don't sit there and say, we got this. When in all reality, you don't got this yet. It's far from done, right?
You said you're afraid, you don't want that to happen. You don't necessarily think it's going to happen, but you're worried about it. Do you feel like that's a probable outcome here? Do you think the
Well,
Buccaneers are
the
going
the reason I say that is because the guys who the guys who are on this team are the same guys where Todd Bowles said literally about halfway through this year, hey, some of these guys are still living off the Super Bowl, right? And that was some complaints that people had. We had talked about it earlier this year, right? And those same guys are still on the team, right? So I wonder if this is a team where some guys on this team tend to maybe get a little bit too comfortable and say like, "Ooh, we've been winning. We're feeling pretty good. We got, and maybe get that confidence confused with arrogance, right? And instead of buckling down, maybe take it a little bit easy, right? I don't think that's going to be the case, but do you understand where I'm coming from? Where it's like, ooh, that was a conversation that was had earlier in the year. Let's hope that conversation doesn't come back up.
Yes, I do get what you're saying. And yeah, that was definitely, like you said, same personnel, right? I just think that
Devin White.
it feels like it feels like the Buccaneers, when those situations came about earlier this year, and that was a topic of discussion, the Buccaneers from then to now feel like a totally different team.
That's true.
Like, I will be so honest, when the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, like started this win streak, right? They beat the Panthers. And granted, the conditions made the game very difficult. I feel as though they probably would have blown out the Panthers had it not have been like a monsoon. But they beat the Panthers, and you were like, okay, yeah, well, kind of everybody beats the Panthers. Then they beat the Falcons, and that was a tougher game because it's a divisional game. You're on the road, and the Falcons at that point, they were right there in the thick of it, and they're still technically right there in the thick of it. And I was like, okay, Baker Mayfield leads a game-winning drive. Yeah, you're feeling good. Going into the Green Bay Packers game, though, my confidence was not as high as it is right now.
That's
I, I
fair.
thought, I thought, wow, the Packers are really going to be a test like that. That's going to be a difficult. We're going up to Lambeau. The Packers defense is not the best by any means, but the solid offense, a solid head coach, good quarterback play coming out of Green Bay. I'm like, that's going to be tough. And it's just, again, to go on a 3-game win streak, the two of them on the road, I was like, that's going to be tough. They destroyed the Packers, So, okay, then we go into Jacksonville, and I was like, again, my confidence was not to the moon or anything like that. I was like, Jacksonville could be tough, could be difficult. The whole Trevor Lawrence situation, I think, was playing into it as well. Like, is he going to play? Is he not going to play? For them to win those games and then win them in the fashion they won them, and they were up 30-0 at one point last week. Winning them in the fashion they're winning them is where my confidence is coming from. It's you gotta just to me, I'm living in the present or the very recent past only. The Buccaneers don't look like the team that blew the lead against the Houston Texans. They just don't look like that team. And I get that it's the same team, it's the same personnel, but people and groups of people grow. And I don't think that they're playing at the level they were playing at or with the mentality they were playing with earlier in the season.
Yeah, no, I do understand where you're coming from. And again, like, I don't think it's gonna happen because again, to the point of you said earlier, like, you know, job's not done. Their backs are still against the wall, and this thing could fall apart. It could. I don't think it will, because like you said, I feel very good based off the Packers and the Jags games. I mean, that's what a great couple of games there. We're going to talk about, one of the leading men from those games here in a little bit. But no, it is. There is plenty of reasons to feel confident in the Bucs right now. You're seeing that in the fan base, which I think is fantastic. And yeah, this does look like a team that's going to be able to go out there and, beat the Saints, hopefully, and be able to get that playoff spot, right? It
And I
does.
think part of it is too, go back to your stigma remark from before, is the Saints are not the Saints of last year or 2 years ago or 3 years ago.
That's true.
The Saints are having a tough go at it. They cannot run the football. They're struggling with Alvin Kamara. Michael Thomas is going to be out. Marshawn Lattimore is going to be out. They're not the Saints of yesteryear. They're the Saints of 2023. And the Saints of 2023 have had a very tough time getting traction and getting things going. So that's a part of it too. Like I
Yeah.
don't, to me, I think the Packers are a better team than the Saints. And I watched what the Bucs did to the Packers. So and that was on the road. Yeah, so to me that's weighing heavily, I think, in my optimism.
I would also say Jacksonville's a better team than New Orleans, even with like Trevor Lawrence being banged up and whatnot. I mean, the Bucs. I mean, Bucs just showed up. I mean, point. Simple as that. So we'll see, man. We'll see. A lot of reasons to be confident. Job's not done. We'll see if the Buccaneers can secure that playoff spot here by sweeping the New Orleans Saints, which would feel so good, right? I don't got.
Can we get a quick score prediction before we move on? Treat us
Yeah.
to
What do you think, Billy? I'm gonna say 28-17 Bucks.
28-17. So kind of you think the Bucs are putting up some tutties.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
I'm considering Baker Mayfield, hey.
I'm gonna go I'm gonna go 27-13. Very similar. I think the Bucs are gonna I don't think the game's gonna be particularly close, honestly. I think the Bucs are the better team. Might start like a little meh, but I think by the third quarter the Buccaneers are gonna have this one.
Right on. Well, we'll see what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers can do here against the Saints. Should be a lot of fun.